Further excavations on the site at Putty, south of Singleton, have revealed a cocktail of dumped toxic waste. Oils, insecticides, industrial solvents and pesticides hidden in at least 8 different pits. The Environmental Protection Authority believes the waste has been there for at least a year, with evidence it's already leaked into a nearby creek.
There was some evidence of one of the cells actually discharging down into the gully, so there could be a potential clean waters problem as well.
The source of the waste remains a mystery. However, the EPA will run tests in an effort to prosecute those who generated the waste.
Track down the people who are responsible for disposing on the site, and if possible the generators of the waste, so actually taking it right back to the people who are responsible for generating it in the first place.
Police also uncovered more vehicles today, bringing the total to 12, valued at more than $500,000. 3 men have been charged with a range of offences, including receiving stolen property. A further 2 men were being interviewed by detectives late this afternoon. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Stage 1 of the facelift has cost the Bowls Club $3.4 million. It's a far cry from the club's humble origins. Officials say while they owed members a more modern facility, it was also imperative for the club to keep pace with the competition.
What I think you have to do, what other clubs in the other areas up here on the Northern Lakes area, they've made extensions. We didn't want to be known as the old club down by the water.
The redevelopment has been given an enthusiastic thumbs up by patrons.
Well, they're breathtaking. It's absolutely breathtaking.
Bloody beautiful.
The renovations are far from complete. In February, work will begin on a $1.5 million contract to convert the main bar area into an auditorium. The upgrade is already providing a massive boost to the club's membership.
I think our membership will rise very, very rapidly. I think I'll be surprised within 6 months if we're not over the 5,000.
The extensions will be officially opened on Saturday. Phil Hind, NBN News.
The number and severity of skateboard accidents is frightening. 1 in every 7 victims suffers a head injury involving a skull fracture or cerebral bleeding. The majority of accidents involve 12 to 14-year-olds over the summer holiday break. An 18-year-old boy died in John Hunter Hospital after a skateboarding accident over the weekend, prompting his parents to call for the compulsory wearing of helmets. The government's Stay Safe committee has taken up the recommendation.
It's up to parents for the time being to educate and encourage and support their youngsters in wearing a helmet now. Buy your child a helmet for Christmas.
The introduction of bike helmets 6 years ago has been successful. Stay Safe committee members saying it will be a matter of educating young riders again.
I believe again the initial opposition would be overcome once the beneficial effects of the compulsion are seen.
The Stay Safe committee is not expected to discuss the helmet issue until well into next year. Blake Doyle, NBN News. The waterfront parcel of land at Toronto is an idyllic spot through the day. By nightfall, it's a different story.
Hooliganism, vandalism, violence, language, interference with people's enjoyment of the general area.
Diners at nearby cafes claim they've been abused and harassed by drunken youths. In an effort to clean up the area, Lake Macquarie City Council may declare the area an alcohol-free zone after dark. Another plan includes upgrading lighting to deter antisocial behaviour. Councillor Davis says increased police patrols could also solve the problem, but admits police resources at West Lakes are already stretched.
There's always the question of more policing, but then the police here in Toronto, as good as they are pretty stretched, and it's a matter of having police on call to react when there's a riot. And there's been a couple of riots up the road here of 20-30 people.
A forum of community groups will discuss the night ban further. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Sydney United are playing faultless football. The competition leaders have won 9 from 10, scoring 33 goals in the process. The Breakers, on the other hand, haven't won since round 1 and must get the 3 points to keep in the hunt for the finals. Also tonight, Game 1 of the Hunter Eagles baseball series against the Brisbane Bandits at Marathon Stadium. The Eagles too are in desperate need of a victory. They're at the bottom of the ABL's ladder. A special Christmas program at the Newcastle International Motordrome tomorrow, and while there's a full night of racing with the New South Wales Sidecar Masters, the other main event will be the Demolition Derby. 30 cars will do everything and anything to keep mobile. The winner takes home a $3,500 early Christmas gift. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
Work cover premiums for retailers have risen on average by 26% during the last year. Employers say they can't afford the increase.
Some businesses, in fact, are thinking of relocating, or new businesses aren't coming to the area because of this particular cost. And I think generally unemployment is the big call.
Newcastle's Chamber of Commerce surveyed 900 business people in the city, asking them about compensation payouts. They found the rise in the number of claims has pushed work cover premiums through the roof, and they're asking the government to take action.
It's a call on business to pay the money, and certainly business wasn't prepared for it, and we don't think it's the right way to go about it.
The survey results will be submitted to the Premier in the new year.
The charcoal chicken at Rutherford had been closed for almost a week because of a staff illness and was unoccupied at the time of the fire. Early investigations point to the blaze being deliberately lit.
Treating it as highly suspicious at the moment. There appears to be a breaking through the back area there, and there's indications it's a very suspicious fire.
Neighbours say the first they knew of the fire was the sound of smashing glass at about 1:30 this morning. The heat was so intense, cladding on the wall adjacent to the shop melted.
It was that quick. The flames were up over the roof next door when I got out of bed, and already the house inside was like a furnace.
The shop was expected to reopen for business soon, but will now likely be demolished. Phil Hind, NBN News.
Well, I'm surprised and disappointed, but I respect the right of the council to choose the chief executive that they wish.
The emergency ward at the John Hunter Hospital was deceptively quiet today, but staff know it's simply the calm before the storm.
It's not a pleasant day for the staff, but we're usually prepared for it. So.
The emergency ward is already classed as the busiest in New South Wales. Tomorrow it's expected that doctors and nurses will see as many as 150 patients, everything from minor complaints to serious road trauma. Their Christmas wish is that people try to find a GP before resorting to the emergency ward, and if they can't, to show some Christmas charity.
Be prepared for a long wait. I mean, people, we will take and see emergencies and we will see people, but obviously the emergencies will get priority.
Meanwhile, radiographers at the hospital have discovered a new use for the CAT scan machine. As well as diagnosing disease, it can detect impending disaster, more specifically earthquakes. In an article published in the latest Australian Medical Journal, X-rays taken just 20 minutes before the Newcastle earthquake show a distortion which could have only been a warning tremor.
We'd investigated the patient, there was no metal, we'd investigated all the other reasons that it might be. And that was the only answer that we could come up with.
Unfortunately, the CAT scan machine used to take the X-ray in 1989 has since been replaced with a less earthquake-sensitive machine. Phil Hind, NBN News.
Christmas and New Year is a lean time for the blood bank, the holiday season preventing regular donations from schools and industry. The bank is now in need of platelets, cells within blood which are basically like band-aids. They control and stop bleeding. Platelets can only be held for 5 days and supplies run out today.
After the Christmas holiday, we really are trying to urge as many donors as we can to come in and help us get through the weekend and on to Monday.
Hospitals still need donations for surgery during the holiday period, so the blood bank is asking for people to overcome any squeamishness and donate blood for the new year.
They can donate here at 38 Watt Street, and we're open from 7:30 in the morning through to 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
It was 10:27 on December the 28th, 1989. 9 people died when the Newcastle Workers' Club collapsed. Beaumont Street was another disaster area. But only a small crowd attended a remembrance service at the Kent Hotel today. In a short ceremony, wreaths were laid to remember the dead. One Hamilton resident trapped under the rubble when the Kent Hotel collapsed chose to watch the ceremony from a distance.
Every time I go past there, you know, it's I don't know, come to me, you know, you just can't forget these things, you know.
But while some may try to forget the quake, the scars are still evident across the city. The Royal's North Wing still lies bare, while the old George Hotel site is still looking for an owner. Lifesavers say it's the once-a-year beachgoer who's most at risk.
You get some people coming to the beach all the time, they know the right things to do. It's those who don't go to the surf that often or around the beach that often who tend to once get into trouble.
The latest drowning casualty was a 15-year-old Sydney boy holidaying at Port Stephens. He was rock fishing at Boat Harbour when washed by a freak wave into the ocean and swept 800 metres out to sea. Lifesavers in a rubber ducky located the boy face down in the water. Westpac paramedics were winched in. He was pronounced dead on arrival at Nelson Bay Polyclinic. Today, a 7-year-old boy was pulled from the surf at Seal Rocks after being dumped by a wave. The child received neck injuries and was airlifted to John Hunter Hospital.
Stay in between the flagged area, you know, rock fishermen in particular, just to keep an eye on the seas at all times and to listen to the instructions of the lifeguard if you're at the beach all the time. We had a couple of rescues here this morning basically because people aren't listening to the instructions given.
Blake Doyle, NBN News.
The Eagles had to win the series against the Cougars at Marathon Stadium in Newcastle to have any chance of making the playoffs. After 2 innings, it was 0-0, but as the match progressed, the visitors fought their way ahead to take the game by 5. Adam Morrissey became the youngest player to debut in the ABL, but not even his efforts enthused the small crowd, so the Eagles tried to drum up some support. It worked for a while. The locals smashed their way to a 3-0 lead after the first innings. American import Fletcher Bates the hero. But that was as good as it got. The Cougars ran home too strongly. The double losses all but ended any faint hope the Hunter had of making the finals, while the Gold Coast maintains its position in the top 4. Knot winds greeted sailors for Heat 1 of the titles this afternoon. Crews from throughout Australia vying for national honours. Leading the way in the senior VJ event, Sydney's Bruce Eltoft. He won yesterday's invitation race and is among the favourites to take out the overall title. The 18-kilometre course follows the Olympic triangular model. It's a lay day tomorrow. Heat 2 starts on Monday. Meantime, a gruelling marathon for the region's surf life saving clubs this afternoon on the Central Coast. The annual end-to-end race covered 30 kilometres down the coastline. The rubber ducky leg from Lakes to Soldiers Beach, followed by a 45-minute surfboat haul to North Entrance. 9 legs in total from all surf disciplines, including the swim, board, run and ski. The marathon concept designed to demonstrate the club's overall strength. Proving their prowess today was the team from Swansea Belmont. They beat Avoca by finishing in 1 hour 55. Redhead was third.
Firefighters were called to the dump just after 5 this morning to find tons of grass and tree clippings well alight. The green waste generated intense heat across an area the size of 3 football fields. Bulldozers were called in to turn the smouldering clippings over, allowing water to seep through. Surrounding wasteland was cleared as a precaution. The fire started when thieves torched a stolen Commodore after smashing it through a mesh fence at the site. The stockpile of mulch is expected to burn for the next few days. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
We were pretty happy with the result. It's a little bit hard to toss ragamuffin, but we've come second, first Coffs Harbour boat home, and I think we may even win our division. So we're pretty happy overall.
Keep going reverse, go reverse. We're going to slide hard.
The small band of protesters planned a peaceful rally, but a scuffle with the Boral manager early in the day signalled a change in mood.
I think a Boral person objected from being filmed and actually pushed someone from the protest and threw his camera onto the ground and broke it.
Not deterred, a lone demonstrator took to the water, swimming towards the ship laden with wood chips. The cat and mouse game with police was short-lived, their attention diverted by further complaints from Boral.
They just recently asked them to take some of those banners down because the wind is picking up. They're a bit concerned about the state of the fence.
Despite the distractions, a band of tree planters continued the campaign, hoping to raise public awareness about the effects of exporting wood chips.
It's basically just a public awareness that the wood chip piles here and, what Boral is actually doing to our native forests.
The ship will be loaded with wood chips and bound for Japan in an hour's time.
In sheeting rain on the busy Pacific Highway just north of Raymond Terrace, a station wagon carrying a mother and her 2 children skidded out of control into the side of a semi it was overtaking. After its first point of impact under the semi, the car was ricocheted across the road into the path of another truck. That driver wrenched his vehicle off the road in an attempt to avoid a collision, but still the station wagon was clipped again, spinning to a standstill in the middle of the road. The 39-year-old driver of the car from Karua and her 7-year-old daughter both suffered cuts to the head. An 18-month-old boy strapped into a child restraint was uninjured. The young family was airlifted by the Westpac Rescue helicopter to Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital. Police crash investigators on the scene said the child seat undoubtedly saved the toddler from injury. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
The match was reduced to 32 overs after rain, and Pakistan won the game. But the Newcastle District Cricket Association is still happy with the result.
We estimate the crowd to be about 4,900, but how many of the people left at lunchtime and came back, I'm not too sure. It will be a financial success for us, which is important to cricket in Newcastle.
The success has added momentum to Newcastle's push for a one-day cricket international next year. The ground is already considered first class, although more undercover seating and better player facilities are needed. Its next test could come as early as February, when Newcastle plans to host the back-in-form West Indies.
We do have a possibility of the West Indies playing a three-day game here in January on, I think it's 18, 19, 20 of January, providing they miss out on the one-day series final. So we want all those people out there to barrack for Australia and Pakistan so that we get to see the West Indies.
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
The claim over the islands was lodged by the Wurrumai Local Aboriginal Land Council in 1985. 3 of the 5 islands are little more than mangrove swamp. The main islands, Boondalla near Salamander Bay and Bull Island at Lemon Tree, are rocky with no beaches. Lands Minister Kim Yaden approved the claim after determining the land wasn't needed for essential public purposes. Local Aborigines say the islands are an important link to their seafaring past.
So those islands, and remember they had canoes. Canoes were very stable craft in those days. So they pulled into these islands, they had meals there, they met there. There were certain ceremonies carried out on some of the islands.
The state government puts a dollar value on the islands of $1.6 million. While the Land Council says it will never sell the land, it may in future consider leasing islands depending on the intended use and the threat to significant sites. The Land Council is proposing to regulate comings and goings from the island. Whether that's via formal permits or an informal permission system is yet to be determined.
Doesn't mean people can't utilise it or people can't go there, but we want to make sure the people that do are responsible people.
The Land Council says the success of the island claims gives the local Aboriginal community hope that other long-standing claims in the region still before the government could soon be settled. Phil Hind, NBN News.
The monitoring program conducted by the EPA, Hunter Water and the Newcastle Port Corporation began in 1992. Oysters attached to buoys were placed at sample sites in the harbour mouth and offshore along beaches and near sewerage outfalls between Lake Macquarie and Port Stephens. The study was put in place to check the levels of contaminants after the upgrade of sewer treatment plants. Organochlorines, chlordane, DDE and DDD were found in trace levels in oysters. Dieldrin, low levels of DDT and PCBs were consistently detected in other sediment tests.
In 1997 marks the passing of 200 years since Lieutenant John Shortland sighted the Hunter River, beginning the development of modern Newcastle. And as the bells today tolled in the new year, Lord Mayor Greg Hees says it's a good time to reflect on past achievements and identify opportunities for the future.
I think it's really important that we're going through this transition from a heavy manufacturing city into something else, and the bicentenary really shows us the way, because tourism and the arts are going to become more and more significant.
There is a packed program of events for 1997, ranging from sport, theatre, dance and conferences. Some key events are designed to attract visitors to the region, encouraging greater tourism.
There'll be people coming here, not just from Australia, but from overseas, particularly to our Pathways to Sustainability conference. That's a real coup for Newcastle.
Later this month, delegates from Newcastle's sister city of Ube will visit for Australia Day activities on the harbour foreshore. Emma Ossian, NBN News.
Nerves are on edge at the Newcastle Motordrome, the Americans needing to win the second test to keep the series alive. Relations were further strained when American Charlie Schwartz was black flagged after hitting Aussie John Brown.
He says, nah, sorry, that can't be possible.
Schwartz refused to leave the track. Racing resumed only after his teammates coaxed him off. The American was in the thick of the action again when he was blamed for a 3-car pile-up in the 7th heat. The Americans refused to accept the decision, the Test series looking in jeopardy until a conference with stewards led to a rerun of the race. Schwartz took his chance, leading all the way to win the 7th. The Americans may have won a few battles, but once again it was the Australian team of Brown and John Pine who won the war. They lead the series 2-0, and it's sure to be a fiery final test this Saturday night.
It may not be the America's Cup, but the competitive spirit is just as strong. 300 competitors are taking part from across the eastern seaboard. Ideal racing conditions greeted the fleet, crews relishing a 15-knot nor'easterly. In the senior division, Out of Reach, sailed by Queenslander Kyle Robson, took the honours. Fellow Queenslander Zach Kelly second in Hound Dog. In the juniors, local sailor Nathan Artridge in Just Do It finished first, ahead of Dave Chew from Queensland in Around the Boys. Across the water at Belmont, crews were battling it out in heats of the Australian Skate and VJ Championships. Sydney boat freeballing was first across the line, Western Australia's Fauna Cape in second. In the senior VJ class, Sydney sailors filled the first 3 positions. Local sailor Adam Kelty in Rattle and Hum finished second behind Joel Castle in Loaded Weapon in the VJ Juniors. Final heats of the VJs will be sailed tomorrow.
It hasn't been the best season for Breakers selectors. They lost David Lowe in round 1 with a calf injury and have since had a number of problems finding the right combination up front. Player availability is now at its worst. Striker Clayton Zane is still out with the young Socceroos, while Harry James is also out of the attack. That send-off last weekend earning an automatic 1-week stint on the sideline. Returning to the team for Sunday's clash with Adelaide City is suspended defender Matty Austin, while Liam Maguire comes in for James.
And Liam Maguire came on for the last 10 minutes in place of Jason Bennett. And Liam did a great job, and as far as I'm concerned, he's done enough to earn himself a starting berth now.
6 draws this season have taken their toll on the Breakers' position on the Ericsson Cup ladder. They're currently 12th and 2 wins adrift of the top 6. Newcastle meets Adelaide on Sunday. They've conceded only 9 goals from 12 matches this season.